This is me with a brightly lit face because I made the room behind me dark. Uh, just learn that you can do that on these videos. Or I could buy a lamp. I can put it. I have a lamp. I could put it in front, but then I have to replace the cord, and cord space is the single biggest constraint in my room. I have got this computer. Behind this computer is one, two, three, four, five, six power strips, each with six slots, so 36 cords. Just to run a damn TV and a computer. I don't even do multiple screens on a computer. Uh, it's incredible. What the hell are they all doing? Well, at least five of them are 1 terabyte or so add-on drives. This is a video on some big dreams. And these are my big dreams. They're not your big dreams. And so we'll have to see whether they meet needs of other people or not. I've got one big dream is I've got all of these new intellectual tools. And if you created a school system where students, and you could start at any age, you could create a school system that at age, the first middle school year, started using all of these tools. Um, I suppose you could go to elementary school, although I'm not interested in that because I think how to live together as a group is probably a better curriculum for elementary school than intellectual stuff is. I agree with the Finns and not with the Americans. Um, so one of my dreams is erecting a new school system or a college, a 4-year college program where in freshman year you start by learning correlational statistics and why they don't work and why most academic papers published are lies because the statistics do not support the conclusions of the paper. Not to mention that 77% of the work statistics examples in statistics textbooks are wrong and the parameter estimates are off by 200%. And which means that 99% of the professors teaching statistics don't have a clue what they're talking about. 2 generations of incompetence have been graduated from our schools. And all of this from the guy who created statistics in schools of business, Harry Roberts, my mentor at the University of Chicago, who actually tested the examples in textbooks and found 77% of them were wrong. And he tested graduates of the University of Chicago Business School and found that 2 years after graduation, absolutely nothing remained of knowledge of statistics. They just blindly did whatever their investment bank told them to do, and whoever told the investment bank to do it had no idea what they were talking about either. It's just a giant religion of numbers are right and they're impressive. Let's believe them. Little boy stuff. It's just incredible. But anyway, so freshman year of college, new intellectual tools, and then teach the flaws in the brain and the flaws in statistics that make our so-called truths not actually true. In other words, freshman year, give them the tools for really professional, expert, accurate skepticism, so they don't buy into phony truths by people who try to scare them or intimidate them with a silly little equation of economics based on human rational utility assumptions, which you have to imagine what kind of a sleight of hand trick was that. I took 1401 at MIT from Paul Samuelson freshman year, and he was a liar. And it was perfectly clear in 3 weeks that you can make a beautiful theory if you input to it assumptions about human beings that remove all complexity from what a human being is, of course. Oh, great, elegant topological solution. We'll win a Nobel Prize with it. No relation to reality, but great hiding place for psychopathic greeds on Wall Street so that Harvard grads can make a lot of money by stealing it from all the middle-class old ladies of the world. Great. So that's one dream I have, is creating a new school. So what would a person who started with the quality of their reading actually measured? So you could, how many correctly of the 200 main points in a chapter did they diagram correctly? I can measure the quality of readings at that level of the thoroughness, the 200 main points in any chapter. Are they diagrammed correctly or not? What would happen if people actually read books? I know professors assign it assuming no one will read it, and students pretend to read it assuming professors will never really test for it. And it's a great collusion. Nobody is reading. They're collecting on the web, but they're not reading. So that's one dream I have. Another dream I have is going to techno-parks and measuring specifically 120 gaps between their dynamics and Silicon Valley dynamics, and then just letting that data every quarter, every year influence their choices about what to do next, and then see which ones drift towards Silicon Valley levels of productivity and which ones don't. I was really interested by the New Yorker article on Henderson, the president of Stanford's visit to New York City when they were going to do this extension of Stanford over in New York to create a Silicon Valley in New York. And the first thing the New York guys did was put him in a room with a lot of lawyers with the tilted contracts so that Stanford gets all the risk and none of the reward. A typical East Coast way of encouraging a person to do business with them is throw them into a room with sharks and let the sharks nibble pieces of their flesh off of them as the sort of introduction to doing business in New York the New York way. And I think Henderson was quite unprepared for how stupid the East Coast of the U.S. is and how stupid the people are, how hierarchical, arrogant. Like MIT's arrogant maths compared to Stanford's making huge contributions to GDP. MIT would rather be arrogant than effective. And it's quite clear they're in love with their little math hiding places because you take away that math, you see how stupid those guys are at MIT professors. And I've been there. They are largely stupid. Those are not the top minds in the country by any means. They're just the best funded because that's what they do. They went after the funding, and they have this sort of chicken and egg thing where if you've already got a lot of funding last year, you get more funding and you're more seriously treated next year. Plus, all your friend buddies are up there at the National Science Foundation allocating, let's give MIT a lot of funds. I went to MIT. It's a good place. I know it. Well, I went to MIT, and the faculty were a waste of my money. And I had to learn computer science from graduate students in Project Mac because John Donovan and a bunch of idiots had imported IBM equipment into the computer science department and made the first entry-level course into computer science, 6251, writing a COBOL compiler in PL1. With hell itself. And again, how stupid can you be? It's like, we are morons. Big advertisement, first course. We are the faculty are morons. They're smart people on campus, but they're not the faculty. Males are so pitiful when their attempts to look important by hiding behind math. 12-year-old kid. I was a 12-year-old kid who was really, really good at math. Really, really good at math. I finished calculus, 4 courses in calculus, 4 books in calculus, all the homework on my own without a teacher in elementary school. I didn't need MIT to teach me rote rules of doing math. I'm so stupid. Math is boring, but it is not hard. Now, that's the second dream, the technopark evolution direction. Just put an information environment around every technopark that's around and measure 120 gaps between them and where Silicon Valley operates and see if they drift in creative directions that way. See if that helps. It's cheap, it's fast, and it's gentle, and it may be better than a lot of what other people are trying to do now. My third dream has to do with design and art schools and adding an event component, a cabaret show of 20 or 30 art acts packed into 2 hours, done based on a mood and style and need analysis of a community, and transitions needed are identified in 64 social process areas. And then members of the community design and compose arts and rehearse them and blend them into a 2-hour performance. So about 8 weeks of preparation, and then the event itself, and then 6 weeks of follow-up. So it would fit within a semester at a school. Now, I've done these 20 years ago, so I know how to do them. They work. It's just the world hasn't seen them in a long time. And I'm at a life transition where I'd like to sort of do fun stuff like that. If I could get a design school to have some guts. Putting all the arts together, set design, lighting design, marketing the event up front, training and rehearsing people. And, we have some key principles there where you don't let talented people do any of the roles. You have to make talented people the coach, and you have newcomers do all the roles. There's nothing more boring than Americans trying to show they're better than each other when they've already shown you they're better than you. And then they want to show you again, and so you end up watching the same damn people better than everybody all the time. That's inhuman. And that's not talent, that's stupidity. A talent is that talented person training someone we've never seen before to equal them. That's fun. That's humane. That's entertainment. But we really don't need to see the same old goddamn talented face one more time. So that's the third dream. The fourth dream has to do with my own books and writing. And I'm working in China with a group of people students are going to design a new kind of word processor for a replacement for prose writing. And they're going to design new interfaces for a whole bunch of the computer stuff that we do. Non-bushy inputs to the web, for example, to replace search engines. Idea concept, fractal idea maps of the web. So that's my fourth dream, to replace prose and to create a word processor that makes it easier to type my thing than it is to type an ordinary stupid document that hides its points in Microsoft Word and all those silly word processors. A fifth dream? Do I have a fifth dream? A fifth dream has to do with the evil from the top colleges of the world, the evil of the faculty at Harvard. These were people who were selected to be at Harvard entirely because they were masters of research methods and correlational statistics that don't work. Harvard should know better. Several of the professors who prove that these correlational statistics don't work were from Harvard. They were female and they got ignored 20 years ago at Harvard. Harvard's so proud of how many female professors they have, but they don't listen to the ones that they hired 20 years ago. So we really need to do something about how do you get rid of the evil that Harvard and MIT produce. Now, the West Coast is much less evil. They have an anti-U.S. culture from California, anti-East Coast culture from common sense, anti-hiding behind math culture. And so they've been doing 8 times more contribution to GDP than MIT and Harvard have been doing. And they've not been generating hordes of evil people to steal all the money in the world. And then it'd be bailed out by governments, banker welfare systems. So I think, and then how would you deal with that? You have to have a system of rule by law, which we do not have for elites in China, and we do not have it for elites in America. We simply don't apply laws that are there to elites. They buy themselves off with the politicians, especially now the Supreme Court has become a right-wing bunch of Nazis. So this is a hard problem. I'm not sure the United States is worth saving. The people have become so fat and spiritually so ugly and politically so vile and Nazi-like that maybe they deserve a really, really horrible fate, which surely is going to be theirs, by the way. But on the other hand, there are rare things in America that I've never seen in Asia, never seen in Europe, and I would really hate to see those rare things go down the toilet because this current generation of American people are so ugly. And so if we can somehow get rid of the current 40 to 70-year-olds in America entirely, and then take some people, and then get rid of all the Harvard grads, the MIT, the East Coast people, and then with the West Coast, rebuild the country on a humane, trustful basis. An Asperger syndrome basis is what you get from Silicon Valley. Maybe we can, for history and the whole world, preserve these really, really rare virtues. I've worked in 2 global corporations that are European, 2 global corporations that are Japanese, and 3 global corporations that are American. And American organizations are more permeable to ideas and move faster on ideas than any other organizations ever in human history. And this has produced a stupendous 20th century accomplishments by America in spite of the ugliness of their people and the vileness of the elites generated by Harvard and the ugly faculty, the vile, evil, psychopathic, ugly faculty at Harvard, like Jensen's theory of agency theory. Just a giant hiding place for psychopathic greed. And he knows it. He knows it very, very well.